Hello, and welcome to the Reykjavík Newsdesk. I'm Andie Sophia Fontaine, and these are the top stories in Iceland this past weekend. If you like the content you see here, be sure and like and subscribe. And if you really like the content you see here, check out the Patreon link in the description below. But now, the weekend's top stories. Visa reports that Solveig Anna Jónsdóttir, the director of the labor union Efling, and Halldór Benjamin Þorbergsson, who is the chair of SA, or Samtök Atvinnulífsins, which is the company that represents management. The two of them sat down together for the television show Pattborðið and got into a pretty heated discussion. In case you missed the news, as I discussed in my last video, there's an ongoing strike right now with some hundreds of Efling workers, many of them working in hotels or driving oil trucks, who are currently on strike. In response, SA said that they were going to institute a lockout on March 2nd, which would prevent some 20,000 Efling workers from going to work or receiving pay. This has caused quite a conflict between the two of them, and while there was very little that they agreed on Pattborðið, they both said that if the state arbitrator, Ástráður Haraldsson, called for a meeting and had a new proposal for the two of them, they would absolutely go to this meeting. As fate would have it, Ástráður also told Visa that it is no secret that he is indeed working on a new proposal to bring to the two of them. In the meantime, Kristján Þór Snæbjarnarson, who is the president of ASI, or the Icelandic Confederation of Labor, which is the umbrella group for all the labor unions, he said that he was going to be taking SI to labor court over the lockout. ASI contends that the lockout is something that SA doesn't have the authority to do, and that it's illegal. But that will, of course, be up for labor court to decide. They have until March 2nd, for which time, there'll be 20,000 people not working and not getting paid for that work. And the lockout, it is estimated, will have an even greater impact on Icelandic society than the strikes ever would. And that includes the availability of petrol, considering that oil truck drivers will be amongst the people striking and or locked out. On that note, Þórður Guðjónsson, who's the CEO of Skeljungur, one of the companies that sells petrol in this company, also told Visa that he wants people to be aware that it is both illegal and dangerous to fill open containers with hundreds and thousands of liters of petrol, and to not do this, please. Now, apparently there's people that are hoarding petrol in anticipation for the strikes and the lockouts, and as it turns out, there's a legal limit. You can have up to 900 liters of petrol that you yourself can pour out of a gas station, but even then, only into like a special container, and the maximum amount actually depends on the type of petrol you're taking. But regardless, you absolutely should not and cannot pour hundreds and thousands of liters of petrol into like the back of a pickup truck lined with a tarp or something like that. It's incredibly dangerous. It's amazing that it needs to be said. So please don't do this. If the gas station in your area runs out of gas and you can't drive, then walk, take a bicycle, or take the bus. Speaking of the bus, Visa reports that the night bus is back. And the night bus was in operation last summer. But Strætó, which is the company that oversees the capital area buses, shut it down last October because they said it was too expensive and not enough people were riding it to justify it. Well, the night bus will be back in operation, but there will be some caveats to that. First of all, it's only going to be running every Saturday and Sunday. It'll only be running within Reykjavík, and the fare will be 1,100 kronur, which is double what the standard fare is for the bus. Pirate Party councilperson for Reykjavík City Hall, Alexander Briem, who is also on the board of Strætó, told reporters that the city itself will be covering the operational costs, which are estimated to be about 60 million ISK per year, and she is hopeful that it will remain in operation from here on out, as are we all. Next, I have not one but two pieces of animal news for you. First of all is that Thor the Walrus was spotted in Breiðdalsvík, East Iceland. Now, if you live in the UK or the Netherlands, you're probably very familiar with Thor the Walrus. Well, he showed up here too, and the media characterized him as grumpy, which I personally think is kind of unfair. He swam across the North Atlantic Ocean from the UK. Of course he's going to be grumpy. He probably just wanted to relax for a little while. but his feelings and his needs were not immediately respected as people crowded him and trying to get good photos of him and what have you, to the point where the police had to step in and tell people to give him his space and give him some breathing room. Little historical note, Iceland used to have walruses that hung out mostly on the west coast. In fact, they were a subspecies of walrus, the Icelandic walrus. But the settlers who came here hunted them to extinction, so they're not here anymore. Maybe Thor was hoping to get things started again and bring back the good old days, but we'll never know because he left Iceland. And a second piece of animal news, and this is pretty groundbreaking stuff here. The Canadian Journal of Zoology, the West Iceland Nature Research Center, and Orca Guardians Iceland, in cooperation with the Cape Breton Pilot Whale Project and Lauki Tors, have made a breakthrough discovery, and that Sædís, a female orca who is part of a pod that hangs out near Snæfellsnes in West Iceland, was spotted swimming with a long-fin pilot whale calf, and they believe that Sædís adopted this calf. What makes this groundbreaking is that while orcas will sometimes adopt calves from other orca pods, it has never been seen before that an orca adopts a calf from a completely different species of whale. Marie-Thérèse Mouchoc, who is the main author of the paper in the Canadian Journal of Zoology that covers this, says that the reason for this may be because of the strong maternal instinct of the orca. Maybe that's why Sædís adopted this calf from another species. There's a darker side to this, however, because Edda Elisabeth Magnusdóttir, who is the adjunct of biology at the University of Iceland, told RÚV that this calf may have been kidnapped from a pilot whale pod, which is not outside the realm of possibility, because orca pods and pilot whale pods usually swim pretty close together in this area. And there was a little back and forth chasing between these two pods observed in the area. If you want to know more about this, I've linked to the paper in the description, and I've also linked to a video from Orca Guardians Iceland, who did fantastic coverage on this subject. I highly recommend that you check it out. It's really interesting stuff. Lastly, in my last video, I had said that I was interested in doing a deep dive video about the Independence Party, because in order to understand Iceland, you have to understand the Independence Party. To that effect, Will Radley commented on the video saying, quote, "Would love to see a video breaking down the different political parties in Iceland and how the system works," end quote. I would be delighted to do such a video, and I'll start compiling the research that I need to do in order to make such a video and to get you all up to speed. Full disclosure, I used to be a member of the Left Green Party back in the day, in the early 2000s. I was an alternate MP for that party. So the way that I present these other parties, just have that in mind. But I will be factual, but I may be colored by past experience and my own political affiliations and how I present these parties. So just bear that in mind. In any event, that's the weekend's news. Again, be sure to like and subscribe. And if you really like the content, check out the Patreon to see what kind of extra goodies you can get by kicking some coin our way. On that note, I would like to thank Corinne Vasquez for subscribing on the $20 level, as well as Stephen Ellis and Vivi Carvalho Schaffner, who both contributed on the $10 level to the channel. Thank you very much for your contribution, and I hope I do you proud. In any event, those are the top stories of the weekend. I will see you again on Friday. Be good to each other.